All right, welcome back, everybody. My name's Coach Mike. I'm here with Ben Kvalo from Midwest Games today. One of the mind-blowing things for me about the Midwest is that we are a hot spot for video games, and Midwest Games, part of their purpose that Ben has is to have a place for some of the Midwest talent to kind of show their skills off. Ben's been involved with everything from Netflix to Blizzard to 2K. You've done 100 titles, 100 game titles you've been participating in. That's amazing. And something even more amazing than that is you are a professional skee ball player. How does professional skee ball come to happen?
Oh, that comes to happen when the you live in San Francisco and the cheapest beer in town happens to also be where there's a social skee ball league, and then you get deep into it, and then you end up getting pretty competitive with it, and you end up at the World Championships, competing against some of the best skee ballers in the world.
That's awesome. So welcome, Ben. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us and share some of your story. And congratulations on making it to the professional skee ball championships. That is a
Thank you.
totally unique thing that I've never heard anybody else talk about, and super cool.
Yeah, it's a punny sport. I'm known as Wisconsin. My wife is Ski Rex. We used to roll against like the Backskeet Boys and Cardi Ski. So that's a lot of good puns with that.
Yeah, sounds like a blast, though. Actually, puns are fun. All right, so tell us a bit about your personal story. Where did you grow up? Where do you live now? Hobbies? I know skee ball is one of your hobbies.
Yes, yes. So I grew up in Wisconsin in a little town called Portage, and
Sure.
right north of Madison, and then went to college at UW Green Bay. My whole family is from Wisconsin, through and through. I come, from five generations that went to UW Madison. My great great
Wow.
grandmother was one of the first women to go to college and go to college at UW Madison. And so a long legacy of Wisconsin in my blood. My great grandfather was a Hall of Fame football, basketball, track star at UW Madison, the first
Wow.
American inducted in the Canadian Football League Hall of Fame back before the NFL was big. The Canadian Football League was a way to actually make money and play sports. And so yeah, I'd say I bleed red, but so does everybody.
Hey,
Um,
Canadian flag is red and
yeah,
white.
that's true. That's true. So yeah, from there though, my original route was to go into sports management, but that didn't quite work out. I was in radio. I founded a radio station in college. Did that a little bit professionally after college, and then I decided that's not the route for me, and I wanted to go into video games, and ended up getting this opportunity out in San Francisco because there was nothing in the Midwest.
Sure.
Midway had just died, and they were based in Chicago, and so that was the tent pole of video games in the Midwest. And when that died, there just so much else died. And for me, I have a business background, and so I wasn't going to go make games, but there's this whole larger business around games that isn't well educated, but there's a lot of opportunities in the space. And so I was fortunate to get an opportunity to go work at a company called 2K in the early days of 2K. And you probably know 2K from like NBA 2K.
Yep.
If you're a gamer, you know Borderlands or Bioshock, Civilization, XCOM, Mafia, and many, many others. And so I was fortunate to come in when that company was pretty small and get a lot of opportunities to grow, a lot of exposure with executives, a lot of opportunities to help build out their central technology group, their global marketing organization. And that started me on my path, into video games. And then that has, been a winding path through Blizzard, into Netflix film, and then helping to build Netflix games from the ground up. And then ultimately to the point where I decided to go out on my own and build Midwest games in Green Bay, Wisconsin, trying to change where games come from by better supporting underserved developers in places that are overlooked in the industry. And 67% of the games industry is in 3 states, and we need to diversify that and give more opportunities in more places.
Why did you like? How did you come to that conclusion? Like, I mean, now there's what somebody told me there's 16 or 17 games companies here now,
Yeah.
in Wisconsin. So obviously you were on the front edge of something that was happening.
Yeah, I recognized it A because I'm from here, and B because I just had a lot of connections and so I started to see what was happening in the game development end of things, but also recognize, wait a second, if we want an ecosystem to grow and thrive,
Hmm.
there's a lot of other pieces to this that are missing in the Midwest, and one of them is a publisher. And so I saw this opportunity to say, hey, we could be that piece. We could be Wisconsin's first video game publisher, and come in and help the overall ecosystem. Because how it works is with these big companies, you look at Raven or
Yep.
Respawn or PUBG, they're all in Madison. uh, they work on these giant, incredible games with large audiences. But when you're at a giant company, you do one thing. Like you are a cog in the wheel, and that's not a negative thing. You can learn a
Yep.
lot in that. You can work on incredible big properties, but at some point, a lot of these folks, being game developers, they want to go out and create their own thing. And what we don't have in the ecosystem is people to support them when they go do that. People that will invest in them, people that will help them go to market. And that's where a publisher comes in and a greater investor ecosystem that is investing in video games. And so that's where Wisconsin was lacking. And so I felt, okay, I could come in on the publisher angle and be an advocate for change
Hmm.
in the state. And so I was just fortunate because between the timing, my experience, and I happened to come from this place. It allowed me to like come up with this idea and then go out on my own, and create this thing. And I was also very fortunate to have so much support and so many people want to come on board with me
Hmm.
um, during this time period. And there's just a large shift that's happening, and so the timing was perfect to do this. And I hope it continues to be perfect as we move forward.
Hmm. Yeah, we've worked with both Raven and Respawn, and you're right. They're a couple of the guys that we worked with were just responsible for part of a map,
Yep.
and it
Yep.
was super stressful for them. Like now you get all this talent and skill, and but only put it right. And sometimes they were just the ones that did clean up some other people's work, which apparently is very offensive if you're a creative. If you're a creative, because it was very
Yeah.
stressful too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool fit. So, what would you say your leadership style is?
So my style is really empowering, and encouraging the folks around me to take ownership, responsibility, and have the freedom to do what they need to do to get the job done, but also providing the necessary context around it. So I believe in mass transparency, where folks can see every level of detail in the company. They know what the agreements look like. They can dive into them if they need to, because especially as a company grows, I don't know what somebody's going to need on any given day, and if they have a bunch of hoops they have to keep jumping through every single time they just need to
Yeah.
look up something, you're slowing down the pace that we can operate at and making it more difficult for the folks that are just trying to do what's best for the business. And so empowering folks to make decisions for the business that are best, but then reminding like there's a responsibility that comes with that. And that means you have to farm for dissent, find people that will find the holes in what you're trying to do and encourage them to find the holes. You have to be
And then be
vulnerable.
open to listening to them, right?
Yes.
Like they can tell you
Yeah.
the holes, and in a big company, you might just gloss over that.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to be vulnerable, right? You have to be willing to be like, I was wrong about that, or I don't know it all. And lean on other people around you. And so it's a difficult system for some, but it's something I learned in such a strong way at Netflix. And I saw the power of how quickly this giant company could move because they empowered employees to be able to
Mhm.
do their best work, as they were going through. But they also demanded that you were your best self for the company, and you were doing what was right for the company. And sometimes that means that you are doing something that might not be the best thing for your department, but might be the best thing for the overall company.
Yeah.
And so it takes a lot of vulnerability to take a step back and say, okay, wait, am I doing what's truly right, or am I just doing something that's right or that feels right for me?
Yeah. When did you realize you could go do this on your own, start your own deal?
I mean, I still don't know if I can actually do it on my own, but it's you just kind of run with it, and you learn as you go. I look at it for my team. I look at it as climbing a mountain. As we got through our first raise, and into our first like phase as a company, I said, okay, cool, we got to base camp. Not everyone gets to base camp.
Right. That's
And
right.
we came and we brought a lot of equipment with us. A lot of things that we think we're going to need as we go, but we don't know how the mountain's going to shift. But what we can do is continue to take the next step. You just keep going step after step after step. Um, you eventually get somewhere. Now, it's not always the expected place, but if you're able to pivot in that moment as you continue to move forward, and know that you'll figure it out, even if you don't know what is ahead of you, that as you get there, you have the confidence that you're going to be able to problem solve the situation. Most times you can figure it out. Now, there's always some things that are just not areas that you can cross, and you have to do a very large pivot at that point, and maybe you have
Right.
to retrace some steps at that point. Just knowing that you will continue on the path and continue step by step allows you to kind of get there.
Yeah. I mean, people talk about business like it's somehow unique to other experiences, but we were talking this morning about climbing Mount Everest, and there's no straight line.
Yeah.
And you gotta go up to a spot and acclimate and go
Yep.
past it and come back. Or you fall into a crevasse and that's the end of it. Like you
Yep.
just weren't paying attention. So it can be stressful for people, but that's just reality. Your path is unlikely to be straight.
Yeah, and you don't know the variables that will come into play.
That's
A
right.
big storm could come in, and no matter how well you're prepared, no matter anything, it can still knock you off, or ultimately end your journey.
Right.
And so, but you have to put yourself out there to give yourself a chance, and that's
That's right.
what I'm proud of with my team is we're putting ourselves out there. We're taking a big swing. We are trying to do something different. And even if we fail, someone will take a lesson from what we're doing and hopefully iterate on it and go and make something better. So at least we can help inspire uh, the next group that figures this out. And that's what we ultimately need, and that's what we're ultimately advocating for, is because this industry needs change, and we think the change is where we do work, but it might be something else.
Sure.
And we're open to that. And maybe we have to pivot as well at some point. But I think there's a big advantage to what we're doing because we're seeing how you can be more sustainable as a company in this industry, and you give a higher quality of life for your employees, even though in comparison, you're not paying them as much, but the equivalent here, you get so much more that you
Right.
actually are paying them more.
Sure. If you look back on, your journey, is there anything that you would do differently or change now that you can, I mean, hindsight's 2020, but you
Yeah,
know,
I mean, you always have things that you're like, I wish I wouldn't have done that stupid thing or made that big mistake. But those are the things that also define me so much. So, if I could take it back and still, end up and down the path that I am and take the learnings I have, sure. But some of the best things that ever happened were the biggest mistakes I ever made because it ensured, that I learned that lesson well. If anything, maybe it's that I needed to make more mistakes or take more chances, fail
mm,
more often, because then I would have learned even more that might have prepared me for even better to be in the
Sure.
situation I'm in right now.
Yeah. It's hard when you're looking forward versus looking back though, right? Like we don't knowingly jump into making mistakes, and yet it really is. If you do something and you do it right the first time, you didn't learn anything. You just
Yeah.
did it, right?
Yeah,
So
you don't learn from success too
right,
much.
that's right.
You in fact, if anything, you get an arrogance that you can achieve something that maybe had nothing to do with what you did,
That's right.
just with the
Dead luck.
environment around you.
Yeah. What's a common myth about being a founder, CEO, president, that you would like to dispel?
Uh,
How easy it is? It's just sitting around eating bonbons, isn't it?
yeah, that you just like make a lot of money and you have all this power and make all these decisions. And when in reality, it's like you know, it's nonstop stress, and you have to be so thoughtful about everything that you do, and the things that you aren't end up coming back and biting you because you didn't give the attention to detail that you needed to. And the reality is, you can't do everything, but you have to try to do everything in order to have a chance to be what you really want to be. And you're ultimately taking people's lives into your hand as a leader, and people need to take that extremely responsibly, because if especially if you're moving people to new locations,
Sure.
or any of that stuff, like they have the people that are dependent upon them, and you can really mess with people's lives if you don't take that seriously. And this industry has not done a good job of that. And I hope we can do better. It's difficult. It's really difficult. And so as much as I can critique a leader and how they ended up doing something, or how a company ended up getting to layoffs, it's also really difficult. And I don't have all the context. There might be context that is missed, that actually they made the best of a absolutely terrible situation. And yeah, that still
Right.
meant affecting people. And so just to
Yeah.
like the burden of leadership is a lot, and not everyone has gone through it to know how difficult it is.
I think sometimes we take too much on of that burden, because we, like the people that work for us, and yet there's always times when top performers just decide I'm out, and the difference of one way and two way loyalty is very interesting to consider.
Yeah, which
So
is why I don't believe in trying to hold on to somebody. Like, everyone has their path and their time frame with something. In fact, if someone stays at a company too long,
yeah,
it can be a big negative too.
that's right.
Don't force it. Let things ebb and flow as they ebb and flow, and just focus on building a strong culture that encourages people to always be learning, because that will actually, yeah, get them to leave, but it also will allow you to transfer knowledge more easily, and bring in top talent that you can help grow. And there's always the boomerang effect. If you're really really good at what you do, they can go out, do that other thing, gain more skills. And if they really loved that, and they're willing to like sacrifice pay or level, or because they just loved working at a certain place, you might get them back with even more skills or
Right.
perspective down the
Right.
road. And so let folks go, and they come back even better equipped to take the company forward in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah, that culture is, and your people are the only competitive advantage for companies anymore. Anybody can do what we do or buy the same hardware and things like that. What's one or two of the most interesting insights that you've learned, or advice you've gotten in the recent past that is worth sharing?
Um, I mean, the only thing constant is change, and embrace it. Don't try to fight it. Let change be what it is, and make the most of it, and see the positives in it. And I think I learned, via a number of different just incredible leaders, just to always keep the greater perspective of things. It's easy to get caught in the weeds of your everyday. And I do, as well, as I'm kind of going through what I'm doing, building the company, and you get so focused, but take a step back. Remember your family around you. Remember there's more to life. And and take time away from work so you can get refreshed. Being burnt out at work helps nobody, and especially doesn't help you.
That's right.
And so taking that step back and remembering what's important, it will actually help you do better work as well, by knowing that, hey, this one thing in front of you is not a life or death situation for the most part, depending on your work, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
my
I
work is
guess.
not life or
Yeah.
death. Um, and and as much as I want everything to go right, not all things will go right.
Yeah. Sometimes we have people that want to run the cycle of business backwards, where the owner's trying to take care of the business instead of the business, taking care of the owner.
Yeah.
What's something new you want to learn outside of work?
Outside of work, uh, I am in the process of learning how to be the best husband possible. I just got married
Congratulations.
a month ago.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
nothing like planning a wedding in the midst of building a business, in the midst of living between two places, and
I mean, you don't
yeah,
want to take the easy path. There's nothing to learn
no,
there.
do it all at once. Like 2024 has to be the most memorable year apparently.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm learning, adjusting on like how do you balance and focus, in the same way I would on my business, on my relationship, and really care for that because it's easy to lose track of it,
Yeah.
um, and I've definitely done that in the past, and so that's something that I'm constantly learning how to do it better.
Yeah. What's the next big thing for your business and you?
Well, we're moving into phase two as a company, which means scaling, some of the things that we proved out in phase one, and thinking about, how do we get more content out in better ways? How do we support that and make sure it cuts through in the market with the smart marketing, smart efficient marketing, but impactful marketing? How do we create talkable moments for our titles more consistently? And so that's a big focus on what we're doing in this next phase. And there's a lot of tactics we can take to do this. Now we have
Mhm.
this really unique aspect of our company because we're Midwest Games, like right on our front of our shirt, front of my
Right.
sweatshirt. It tells you what we are, and with that comes the fact that we represent a region of folks. So how do we better serve those folks, and how do we create a community around that absolutely helps our business, but also helps the overall ecosystem, which again I think helps our business. And how do we build that, and how do we make ourselves the catalyst for that? So a lot of my focus is, how do we disrupt the current ways of things, but do it in the way that we do things in the Midwest. And we're not going to necessarily go out and like ruffle a lot of feathers,
Sure.
but we can go out and challenge things with more of a Midwest nice type of attitude.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Here's a question that I didn't prep you for that I ask everybody. And that question is, what do you wish I would have asked you that I didn't?
Whew, well, you covered skee ball, so I feel like that was the big key there. And we can always talk about the Packers or anything. Um, maybe what's, I guess, the most interesting thing that I've done in my career so far.
Considered asked. What is the
Okay,
most interesting thing you've done in your career so
now,
far?
now I got to answer it. So I guess the most interesting thing that I've probably been able to do is during my time at 2K, I took on this really unique role because the company was growing, and I had been, kind of a presentation master for all the executives. I created all the executive like presentations, like board of directors presentations, sales presentations, a
Wow.
lot of, and I became really good at it. And so then I became a project manager. So I think the coolest thing I got to do, I can't say the properties, but I got to pitch a game property or a license that we were trying to go after. And it was just one of the most fun, unique like opportunities. I got to work with the studio heads, our COO, our heads of marketing, to really lead this pitch to try and get this giant license that I cared a lot about. And it was a unique opportunity. It was a growth moment. It was one of those. It felt like that was the project that really took off my career in a really positive way. And really, I was at my best in that moment, facilitating between a lot of groups, making something happen. And so, if I said the property, definitely people would think it's even cooler. But it just was such a cool moment for me in my career to be able to work on something like that. And despite the fact we didn't even get it, we didn't even succeed.
Yeah.
It was such a key moment. And I'm actually, looking back, my life would be very different. I'd be down a whole different path
Sure.
had we gotten it. And so, I gained a lot of lessons and from that moment, and it really accelerated where I've gone with my career since.
And what's one thing you would tell owners that are watching this or people that are considering getting out on their own and starting their own business as we wrap up today?
Surround yourself with amazing people, network with as many people as you possibly can, give everyone your time and energy. Don't dismiss people. You just never know who's going to help you in what way. And just treat people right, because it comes back around one way or the other. It comes back around. And I think the networking of everything is just so vital for your ability to get something off the ground. And then you have to bring in great people, and so that network will again help you when you're trying to bring in great people. And if you keep it positive and you keep your purpose on your sleeve, so people know what you're about, it will attract people that you want to have around you.
All right. Ben Kvalo from Midwest Games. Thanks for the time this afternoon. It's been great to chat with you.
Thanks for having me, Mike.